The void of space stretched endlessly, a silent sea of stars broken only by the steady pulse of engines and the faint hum of a ship built for war. Humanity's flag, an emblem of resilience and defiance, adorned the side of the dreadnought, USS Valorian. At its helm stood Captain Adrian Cole, a man whose calm presence inspired loyalty even in the darkest of hours. His steel-gray eyes swept across the bridge, measuring every detail, every officer's movement. Though he rarely raised his voice, the crew obeyed him without hesitation. Years of command and countless battles had etched confidence into his very posture. Beside him, in the chair of the executive officer, sat Commander Rebecca Hayes. Where Adrian's leadership was rooted in quiet resolve, Rebecca's was sharpened by strategy. Her mind was a battlefield of calculations, always 3 moves ahead of the enemy. Her piercing gaze rarely missed a detail. "Status report?" Captain Cole's voice carried through the bridge, low but commanding. "Engines stable, Captain. Shields at full strength. No anomalies in nearby sectors," replied Lieutenant Jonathan Hale, the youngest of the senior officers. His fingers danced across the console, adjusting sensors to scan deeper into the void. Jonathan was talented, but still young enough to feel the weight of expectation pressing down on his shoulders. On the far side of the bridge, Dr. Emily Carter, chief scientist of the Valorian, scrolled through streams of alien signals intercepted weeks ago. Her brow furrowed. "Captain, these transmissions from the Valar system, they're fragmented, but I think they're warnings. Something is stirring out there, something big." Adrian Cole stepped forward, hands clasped behind his back. "Warnings from whom?" "Not sure," Emily admitted. "But the tone doesn't sound like threats, more like desperation." Rebecca Hayes leaned in. "Desperation means weakness, Captain, or it means a storm is about to break." Far beyond human space, the alien warlord Zarath Kai prepared his fleets. His empire had risen by crushing lesser civilizations, and to him, humanity was merely another target, a species too young, too fragile to survive the fires of war. But what Zarath Kai did not understand was the very thing that made humanity dangerous. They had learned to adapt on death worlds, to survive in conditions most species called impossible. And now, with the USS Valorian patrolling the frontier, the galaxy was about to learn a lesson it would never forget. The first sign came as a flicker on Jonathan Hale's console. "Captain, I'm picking up distortions, multiple drive signatures, closing fast." Rebecca Hayes's fingers tightened on her armrest. "Red alert." The bridge lights dimmed instantly, bathing the crew in crimson. Sirens pulsed through the ship. Crew rushed to their stations. "Enemy identification?" Captain Cole asked evenly. Jonathan's throat tightened as he read the data. "Fleet size. At least 30 warships. Configuration matches the Xylar Dominion. They've crossed into neutral space, heading straight for us." A ripple of silence washed across the bridge. 30 alien warships against 1 human dreadnought. By every calculation, it should have been a slaughter, but Captain Adrian Cole only straightened his shoulders. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "Then we'll teach them what happens when they underestimate humanity." Rebecca Hayes gave a thin smile, her mind already drawing tactical maps in her head. "I've been waiting for this." The Valorian moved like a predator through the void, shields flared, weapons armed. The alien fleet, sleek and jagged, spread across the stars in a crescent formation. At their center stood Torvak, the Dominion fleet commander, his voice hissing through the comms. "Human vessel, you are trespassing in Dominion territory. Surrender your ship, or be destroyed." Adrian Cole's reply was a cold blade. "This is United Earth Space, Commander. You should not have come here." Torvak's laughter echoed through the channels. "1 ship against 30? Your courage will be your death." Rebecca Hayes leaned toward her captain. "Permission to demonstrate our definition of courage, sir?" Cole nodded once. The first volley came from the aliens. Beams of plasma streaked through space, slamming into the Valorians' shields. The ship shuddered, metal groaning under the assault, but the shield matrix held. "Shields at 87%, Hale reported. "Return fire," Cole ordered. The Valorians' rail cannons thundered, hurling kinetic projectiles at near-light speed. Explosions blossomed across the alien formation. One warship erupted into a ball of flame, its wreckage scattering into the void. Rebecca Hayes' voice was sharp, precise. "Focus fire on their flanks. Break their formation before they can encircle us." The Valorian twisted through enemy. Fire, weapons blazing. Despite being outnumbered, the dreadnought fought like a beast unleashed. Every strike was measured, every maneuver calculated. But still, 30 ships pressed in. The bridge crew felt the tension. Hale's hands shook slightly as he reported. "Captain, they're trying to box us in. If they succeed," Cole's voice cut through like iron. "They won't." Dr. Emily Carter suddenly looked up from her console. "Captain, wait. Their drive signatures, they're unstable. If we can disrupt their power cores with a focused EMP, half their fleet could be crippled." Rebecca's eyes lit up. "She's right. Target their reactors. It's a gamble, but if it works..." Cole didn't hesitate. "Do it!" The Valorian charged its EMP warheads. Seconds stretched into eternity as alien fire streaked across space. Then, release. A surge of electromagnetic energy rippled outward, invisible but devastating. Half the alien fleet flickered. Shields collapsed, weapons dimmed, engines sputtered. Ships drifted helplessly in the void. Gasps erupted across the bridge. Hale's voice cracked in disbelief. "It worked! Captain, it actually worked!" Rebecca's grin was feral. "Now, we finish the rest." For the first time, Torvak hesitated. His forces were crippled, his fleet torn apart by a single human ship. "Impossible. No species has ever..." Captain Cole's final words cut him short. "That's because no species has ever fought humans before." The Valorians' cannons roared again, and the galaxy trembled. The battlefield was silent now, broken ships drifting like corpses across the void. Wreckage from the Dominion fleet burned with faint orange embers, slowly fading into darkness. The USS Valorian held position at the center of the carnage, shields, weakened but still intact. The bridge crew sat in the aftermath of chaos, their breaths heavy, eyes wide with disbelief. 30 enemy warships had come to crush them. More than half were disabled or destroyed. "Status report, Captain Adrian," Cole said, his voice steady as stone. Lieutenant Jonathan Hale exhaled shakily before replying. "Shields at 39%, hull integrity at 80, engines stable, weapon systems still operational." Rebecca Hayes allowed herself a small smirk. "We just survived against impossible odds, Captain. I'd call that more than operational." But Dr. Emily Carter wasn't smiling. She leaned forward, her eyes on the alien signals still streaming across her console. "Don't celebrate yet. I'm detecting new movements. Not here, but further out. Long-range scans suggest the Dominion has more fleets mobilizing. This wasn't their invasion. It was just their scouting force." The bridge fell into silence. Again, Adrian Cole's jaw tightened. Then the real fight hasn't even begun. Far away, in the dark heart of the Dominion stronghold, Warlord Zerath Kai received the transmission of Torvak's defeat. The alien overlord's scaled fists tightened on the arms of his throne as he watched the footage. A single human ship carving through his fleet like a predator among prey. "Humans," his voice rumbled, low and dangerous. "They fight like beasts from death worlds." His generals shifted uneasily around him. One, a tall and gaunt figure, dared to speak. "Warlord, perhaps we underestimated them. Their technology..." Zerath Kai silenced him with a gesture. "Technology does not matter. Fear breaks civilizations. And I will show these humans the meaning of fear. Mobilize the Black Armada. If one ship can do this, then I will bring an armada large enough to bury their species beneath the ashes of their homeworld. Back on the Valorian, repairs began in full. The crew worked tirelessly, welding scorched panels, recalibrating weapons, reinforcing weakened shield matrices. Even amidst exhaustion, their determination was unshaken. Rebecca Hayes stood at the tactical display, hands behind her back. We bought ourselves time, but if Emily's right, the Dominion will be coming in force. 30 ships were dangerous enough. An entire fleet. Adrian Cole nodded. We'll need reinforcements. Send a priority transmission to United Earth. Command. Jonathan Hale's fingers flew across his console, preparing the encoded signal. Message prepared, sir, but it'll take hours to reach Earth and days for a fleet to mobilize. Emily Carter interjected softly. If the Dominion sends their full strength, days may be too late. Hours later, the crew gathered in the briefing room. Holographic stars glittered above the round table, the Dominion's territory glowing red. Rebecca Hayes tapped the projection. The Dominion doesn't fight small. They'll hit us with overwhelming force. If their Black Armada is mobilized. She zoomed out the map, and a red wave of ships spread toward human colonies. They'll sweep across the frontier before Earth even knows what hit them, Dr. Carter added. And it's not just humanity at stake. I've decoded more of those transmissions. We weren't the only ones the Dominion threatened. Dozens of weaker species are already enslaved. Others wiped out. To them, we're just next on the list. The weight of her words settled over the room. For a moment, even Hayes was silent. Then Captain Cole spoke. So we make a stand. If the Dominion wants to bring fear to humanity, we'll give them something far worse in return. His words were steady, but they lit a fire in every officer's chest. The next day, long-range sensors screamed again. Jonathan Hale's face paled. Multiple warp signatures inbound, hundreds of them. Captain, it's the Black Armada. The bridge tensed. One Dominion fleet had nearly torn them apart. Now an armada was coming. Rebecca Hayes's eyes burned with cold fire. Then let's show them what one ship can do against an empire. The USS Valorian turned its prow toward the oncoming storm. Enemy signatures filled the stars like a swarm of locusts, blotting out entire constellations. Their numbers were overwhelming. Hundreds of warships advancing in unison, their weapons glowing with hunger. But the Valorian did not retreat. It held its ground. Arm all weapons, Cole ordered. Shields at full strength, Hale confirmed, though his voice shook. Rebecca Hayes smiled grimly. Time to earn our place in the history books. The battle began in a blaze of fury. Plasma lances and missile storms crossed the void. The Valorian's shields flared, straining under the first barrage. The dreadnought returned fire, rail, cannons tearing holes through the first wave of alien destroyers. Yet for every ship that fell, 3 more surged forward. The Dominion fleet was endless, their discipline terrifying. Inside the bridge, alarms blared. Hale shouted updates, his voice nearly drowned out. Shields at 60%! Hull breach on deck 5! Containment holding! Rebecca Hayes barked. New maneuvers. Bring us under their carrier formation. Strike the command ships. The Valorian dove like a predator, weaving through a storm of enemy fire, unleashing torrents of destruction. Alien ships shattered, their wreckage burning, like falling stars. But the odds were against them. Emily Carter's voice trembled as she studied her sensors. Captain, if this continues, we won't survive another hour. Captain Cole's reply was quiet, almost solemn. Then we make that hour count. Even as the Valorian fought, something unexpected happened. A transmission crackled across the comms, not Dominion, but alien voices from another species. This is the Kryn Coalition. We witnessed your battle against the Dominion scouts. Humanity, we did not believe you could fight them. But now, we are coming to aid you." Then another signal followed. "This is the Varani Republic. We too have suffered under the Dominion. We will fight beside you." And another, and another. Species once too afraid to resist were rising, emboldened by humanity's defiance. Rebecca Hayes's eyes widened as she realized the truth. "Captain, you've lit a fire across the galaxy." Cole gave the faintest of smiles. "Good, because we'll need every spark." As the Dominion Armada pressed in, ships from across the stars began warping into the battlefield. Kryn, Varani, Erythians, and more. Small fleets, fragile ships, but together they swarmed the Dominion. For war, the first time, humanity was not alone. The galaxy itself had begun to rise. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as the Black Armada pressed forward. Thousands of Dominion ships, battle cruisers, carriers, dreadnoughts, moved as one, a wall of death sweeping through the void. Against them, the USS Valorian stood like a lone fortress, its hull battered but unbroken. But it was no longer alone. Warp portals shimmered across the darkness as fleets from oppressed civilizations arrived. The Kryn Coalition's long, slender cruisers, the Varani Republic's heavy gunships, the crystalline ships of the Erythians, all of them answering humanity's call without hesitation. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion faced not fragmented resistance, but unity. On the bridge of the Valorian, Captain Adrian Cole watched the flood of friendly signals appearing on the holomap. His chest tightened with a mix of pride and disbelief. "Hundreds of ships," Jonathan Hale whispered. "They're actually coming," Rebecca Hayes smiled sharply. "Guess the galaxy finally found its spine." Dr. Emily Carter adjusted her earpiece, listening to a dozen alien transmissions overlapping. "They're pledging allegiance to a cause they never thought possible, and it started with us." Cole's voice was calm, resolute. "Then let's give them a war worth fighting for." The Dominion was not shaken easily. From his command throne aboard the colossal flagship Oblivion, Warlord Zerath Kai watched the resistance form with burning eyes. His ship alone was larger than most cities, bristling with weapons capable of scouring entire planets. He growled, voice dripping with contempt. "So, the cattle have learned to bite. Let them gather. The Black Armada will drown them in fire." His generals bowed low, but in their hearts, doubt began to grow. If one human warship could destroy 30 Dominion vessels, what might hundreds of united fleets achieve? The battle began in a storm of fire and steel. Rebecca Hayes directed the Valorian into the heart of the chaos. "Target their carriers. First, if they lose their fighters, they lose their swarm advantage." Railguns thundered, missiles streaked across space, and Dominion cruisers burst apart in burning fragments. Alien allies surged alongside the Valorian, fighting with newfound ferocity. Kryn frigates darted between enemy lines, unleashing precision strikes. Varani gunships blasted apart destroyers with heavy plasma cannons. The galaxy was awakening, but the Dominion countered with terrifying discipline. Entire formations of enemy ships moved in perfect synchronization, surrounding and overwhelming smaller fleets. Dominion dreadnoughts tore through the Allied ranks, leaving trails of shattered vessels. On the Valorian, alarms blared. Hale shouted, "Shields at 50%! Hull stress rising!" Emily Carter added urgently. "Captain, they're trying to cut us off from the main Allied fleet!" Cole's eyes narrowed. "Then we break through." The Valorian surged forward like a spear, tearing through the blockade. Its massive cannons split a Dominion battlecruiser in half, while Hayes orchestrated devastating flanking maneuvers. The dreadnought bled firepower in every direction, a storm that even the Dominion couldn't contain. Still, the losses mounted. Across the battlefield, Allied ships exploded one after another. The galaxy's rebellion had only just begun, but it threatened to die in its first true battle. "Too many," Emily whispered. "Even united, we can't match their numbers." For the first time, silence fell on the bridge. The enormity of the Dominion's power pressed against them all. Then, something unexpected happened. A new transmission cut through the chaos, raw and unrefined. A deep, guttural voice spoke in the universal channel. "This is the Torgath Enclave. Dominion has enslaved our kind for generations. Today, we fight free." Another fleet warped in, massive, spiked warships that had once served. The Dominion now turning against their masters. The battlefield shifted again as the enslaved species revolted. Rebecca Hayes's eyes widened. "Even their thralls are breaking chains." Cole's voice carried steel. "Then this war is bigger than humanity. It's the galaxy itself refusing to kneel." The momentum shifted. The Dominion still had numbers, but their control fractured as defections spread like wildfire. Ship after ship turned its guns on its former masters. Yet Zerath Kai remained unshaken. From the bridge of the Oblivion, he roared across the comms, his voice booming through every channel. "You think yourselves free? You think unity will save? You? I am Zerath Kai. I am Dominion. I will break your fleets, burn your worlds, and grind your names into dust." His flagship advanced, a mountain of metal blotting out the stars. With one salvo, it obliterated an entire Varani squadron. With another, it tore a Kryn battleship apart like paper. The galaxy's fleets trembled. Even united, how could they face a monster like this? On the Valorian, silence fell as the Oblivion dominated the battlefield. Its sheer size and firepower dwarfed anything humanity, or any species, had ever built. Rebecca Hayes's voice was grim. "That thing could destroy Earth by itself." Emily Carter's hands shook as she read the energy signatures. "It's not just a flagship. It's a superweapon, a mobile fortress." Cole stared at the looming colossus, unflinching. His voice was steady, but every word cut like iron. "Then that's our target." The bridge crew looked at him in disbelief. Hayes whispered, "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious." The Valorian set its sights on the Oblivion. Engines roared, weapons charged, and the dreadnought pushed forward, leading. The charge of the Allied fleets. Every alien commander watched in awe as humanity's warship, already legendary, threw itself against the most terrifying vessel in the galaxy without hesitation. One ship against an empire, one crew against annihilation, and behind them the galaxy followed. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. In the void of space, the Dominion flagship Oblivion advanced like a god of war. Its silhouette stretched for kilometers, a fortress bristling with cannons, missile arrays, and energy weapons that could tear moons apart. Around it, Dominion cruisers formed a shield wall, daring anyone to come close. And yet, one ship broke from the chaos and charged headlong. The USS Valorian. On the bridge, Captain Adrian Cole stood at the command console, his face lit by the glow of tactical displays. The crew could feel the tension radiating from him, not fear, but focus. "Rebecca," he said evenly, "plot an intercept course, straight for the Oblivion." Commander Rebecca Hayes turned sharply. "Captain, if we get within range of that thing, we'll be vaporized in seconds." Cole's eyes didn't waver. "If we don't, the galaxy loses today. We cut off the head, or the body keeps fighting." Jonathan Hale's knuckles turned white against his console. "Weapons are primed, but against that monster, it's suicide." Dr. Emily Carter's voice broke through, urgent yet steady. "Not if we're precise. Look at these scans. Oblivion's energy core is unstable. Dominion tech pushes output far past safe limits. If we can overload its reactor with a focused strike," Rebecca caught on immediately, "it would chain react. The ship would tear itself apart." Cole nodded once. "Then that's our opening." Outside, the battle raged. Dominion forces pressed hard, desperate to shield their warlord. Alien fleets bled, but they fought with renewed ferocity. inspired by the Valorians' charge. Kryn frigates carved holes in the blockade. Varani gunships threw themselves against battleships twice their size. Even the enslaved Torgath ripped into Dominion lines, roaring in savage defiance. But it wasn't enough. Oblivion's cannons ignited, sending beams of death across the battlefield. Entire flotillas vanished in bursts of fire. Each blast was a reminder that this wasn't just a ship. It was the symbol of Dominion's eternal rule. On every comm channel, Warlord Zarathkai's voice thundered, "Look at them scatter! Weak, broken, pitiful. They rally behind the humans. But they will die like all the rest. No rebellion survives me." The Valorian pushed deeper. Shields flared, hull plating groaned, but it didn't stop. Rebecca barked orders as enemy fighters swarmed them. "Port batteries, keep them off us. Jonathan, lock railguns on their escort frigates." The ship became a storm of firepower, shredding enemy lines. Every gun, every missile, every ounce of its fury unleashed. Yet still the Oblivion loomed larger and larger, filling the forward screens until it seemed less like a ship and more like a planet. "Range to target?" Cole asked. 30,000. "Kilometers and closing," Rebecca replied. "Shields at 40%. Hale added grimly. "Sir, at this range, their forward cannons will—" "Well, you know." Cole's jaw tightened. "We'll be there before they fire again." On the Dominion flagship, Warlord Zarathkai watched the human ship approach. A small smile curled across his lips. "One vessel dares to challenge me. A single insect flying into the storm." His second-in-command spoke cautiously. "My lord, the Valorian has destroyed dozens of our ships. Its weaponry is unpredictable." Zarathkai slammed a clawed hand against his throne, denting the metal. "Unpredictable or not, it is still only one ship. Prepare the Oblivion's main cannon. I will crush their spirit with my own hands." The Valorian broke through the last defensive line. Wreckage floated around them. Fires streaked across space, but they were through. The battlefield seemed to pause as the dreadnought faced the superfortress. Rebecca whispered, "This is it." Cole's voice was firm, unwavering. "Emily, you've got one shot. Tell us where to aim." Emily Carter's hands flew across her console, sweat dripping down her temple. The reactor core readings pulsed on her screen, erratic, dangerous. "There," she said finally, pointing to the holo display. "They're secondary coolant conduits. Hit those with everything we have. It'll destabilize the core in seconds." Jonathan Hale locked the targeting systems. "Coordinates set, all batteries primed." Cole gave the order. "Fire." The Valorian unleashed hell. Railguns tore into the Oblivion's armored hull, carving molten scars. Missile swarms struck in a devastating wave, forcing the behemoth's shields to flare and crackle. Plasma cannons roared, each shot hammering the precise coordinates Carter had calculated. For the first time, the Dominion flagship shuddered. Its shields wavered, its armor cracked. But then, the Oblivion fired back. A single lance of energy erupted from its primary cannon, a beam wide enough to swallow a cruiser whole. It struck the Valorian's shields, ripping them apart like paper. The dreadnought convulsed as alarms screamed across the bridge. "Shields down!" Hale shouted. "Hull, breach on decks 7 through 10. Rebecca's voice was fierce. "Reroute power! Keep firing!" Cole's voice cut through the chaos, steel in every word. "We don't stop. Not until it burns." The Allied fleet saw the exchange and rallied. Ships dove in to protect the Valorian, throwing themselves between Dominion fire and the human dreadnought. Kryn frigates shattered in explosions. Varani cruisers were cut down in seconds, but they held the line. For humanity. For freedom. On comms, alien commanders spoke as one. "Hold the shield wall. Protect the Valorian. Today, the Dominion dies." Inside the Oblivion, chaos erupted. Engineers screamed as warning sirens blared. The coolant conduits buckled. Under the assault plasma fires ripping through decks, "Warlord," shouted one of the bridge officers. "The core is destabilizing!" Zerath Kai rose from his throne, eyes blazing with fury. "Stabilize it, you worthless wretches! This ship will not fall to vermin!" But deep inside the superfortress, the Audi reactor groaned like a beast in chains, moments from breaking free. On the Valorian, Emily Carter looked up, eyes wide. "We did it! It's unraveling!" Cole exhaled, the faintest crack in his calm mask. "Then let's finish it." Rebecca gritted her teeth. "Sir, if we stay here when it blows—" "I know," Cole interrupted. His gaze never left the looming Titan. "But if it lives, the galaxy dies. We're the sword. We strike to the end." For a moment, silence. The crew looked at one another, not in fear but in solidarity. They had followed Cole this far through fire and blood. They would follow him into the storm. The Valorian charged one last time, guns blazing, tearing deeper into the Oblivion's heart. The galaxy watched in awe as one ship, one human vessel, stood against the Empire's greatest weapon and refused to yield. Oblivion's reactor screamed, energy building to cataclysm. Sparks danced across its colossal frame as explosions tore through its hull. Zerath Kai roared in defiance, his voice echoing across the void. "I am Dominion! I do not fall!" But fall he did. The reactor imploded, then erupted in a supernova of blinding light. The Oblivion, the symbol of Dominion's rule, shattered into burning fragments, its death scream echoing across every comm channel. The battlefield froze. Dominion ships faltered. Commanders panicked. Entire fleets, leaderless and broken, began to scatter. And across the galaxy, a single truth was etched into history. The humans had slain a god. The explosion of the Oblivion still burned across the void, a dying sun that lit the battlefield in fiery brilliance. For a long, impossible moment, there was silence. No weapons, no comms chatter, no screams of war. Just the sight of the Dominions. Most feared warship torn apart, its fragments scattering like the bones of a dead god. And in the center of it all, battered and scorched but still alive, drifted the USS Valorian. On the bridge, alarms still blared, panels sparked, and smoke curled. From shattered consoles, crew members struggled to hold their stations, wounds bandaged in haste, exhaustion painted across their faces. But amidst the chaos, a strange calm settled. They were alive. They had done the impossible. Captain Adrian Cole's voice was hoarse but steady. "Status report." Rebecca Hayes, blood trickling from her forehead, forced a shaky smile. "We're still flying. Barely. Reactors stable, weapons offline. Hull integrity at 20%. Shields gone. But—" She swallowed. "We won, sir." Dr. Emily Carter leaned back in her chair, her hands trembling from the adrenaline. "Oblivion's gone. The Dominion lost its core. Their entire fleet structure depended on that ship. They can't coordinate without it." Jonathan Hale, still gripping his weapons console, exhaled heavily. "I thought we were finished, but damn, we actually did it." Cole looked at each of them in turn, his crew who had stood against the galaxy's greatest nightmare. His voice was quiet, almost reverent. "No, we did it." Across the battlefield, the effect was immediate. Dominion ships faltered. Some tried to fight on, others broke formation and scattered into hyperspace. Without the warlord's iron grip, their fear-driven unity shattered. On Allied comms, voices erupted, cheers, disbelief, tears. "The monster is dead." "Dominion flagship destroyed." "Victory, by the stars, victory." Kryn commanders saluted the Valorian. Varani war chants echoed across frequencies. Even the enslaved Torgath, once weapons of the Dominion, roared with newfound freedom. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy dared to hope. But the cost was immense. The star field was littered with wreckage, Thousands of ships, friend and foe alike. Fires still burned across drifting hulls. Life pods floated, carrying survivors desperate to be found. The victory was real, but so was the price. On the Valorian, the bridge fell into somber silence as casualty reports streamed in. Entire fleets had been obliterated. Many of their closest allies had given everything to hold the line. Rebecca's voice trembled. So many didn't make it. Cole's expression hardened, not out of coldness, but out of duty. We honor them by making sure this victory matters. Dominion won't rebuild. Not this time. Days later, a gathering was held above a neutral world, in the same system where the war's final battle had taken place. What remained of the Allied coalition assembled, a sight no historian would ever forget. Dozens of species, some of whom had once hated each other, now stood side by side. Holographic banners of unity shone across the vast chamber. At the center of it all stood Captain Adrian Cole and the crew of the Valorian. Survivors, heroes, legends. The Kryn speaker raised, her voice, her crystalline form glowing. Before the humans, we were divided. We were slaves. Today, we stand free because they dared to fight when all others faltered. The Varani warlord slammed his armored fist against his chest. The Dominion was eternal, until humanity shattered. Its spine! Even the Torgath chieftains, hulking and scarred, lowered their massive heads in respect. We who once killed for the Dominion now fight for the ones who freed us. The humans are no longer outsiders. They are kin. Cole stepped forward. His uniform was torn, his body weary, but his voice carried across the chamber with quiet power. We didn't come to rule. Humanity has known war, yes, but we've also known rebuilding. We've learned that the true measure of victory isn't in the ships destroyed, but in the peace that follows. The Dominion thought fear was strength. We proved unity is stronger. He glanced at his crew, Rebecca, Jonathan, Emily, then back at the assembled leaders. Humanity stands with you, not as conquerors, not as overlords, but as allies. Together, we'll rebuild a galaxy where no empire can ever enslave us again. The chamber erupted with thunderous applause, roars, and chants, and so began the dawn of a new age. The Dominion fractured. Its remnants fled to the dark corners of the galaxy, hunted and broken. Worlds once enslaved began to heal. Trade, diplomacy, and cooperation flourished where once there had only been tyranny. And at the heart of it all, the USS Valorian became a symbol. Its image was etched into monuments, painted across banners, whispered in songs of resistance. Children of countless worlds grew up learning the names of its crew, the ones who dared to strike the unstrikable. Humanity, once overlooked as a young and reckless species, now held a seat at the center of galactic history. Not because they sought power, but because they proved the impossible could be done. Yet for Captain Cole and his crew, the war had left scars no monument could heal. They returned to Earth for a time, welcomed as heroes, celebrated by billions. But each of them knew that beyond the celebrations, beyond the medals and the parades, the galaxy still held dangers. Rebecca often walked the Valorian's halls at night, hand-brushing the scarred metal of the ship that had carried them through hell. Jonathan buried himself in rebuilding the fleet, determined to ensure humanity would never be caught unprepared again. Emily led efforts to integrate Dominion, technology for peaceful use, insisting that the tools of war could also heal. And Cole stood beneath the stars, always listening, waiting, watching, knowing that history had not ended with the fall of the Dominion. One evening, aboard the Valorian, now repaired, reforged, and stronger than ever, Rebecca found him on the observation deck. "You're restless," she said softly. Cole gave a faint smile. I keep thinking about what Zerath Kai said before the end, that he was dominion, that he would not fall. And yet, he did. But somewhere out there, others will rise. They always do. Rebecca nodded. Then we'll rise too. Together. Cole looked out into the endless night of space, stars glittering like silent witnesses. His voice was steady, resolute. Then let them come. Humanity will be ready. And with those words, the story of humanity's first great war among the stars became legend. A legend not of destruction, but of defiance, of unity, and of a single truth written into the heart of the galaxy. Humans may bend, but they do not break.